Hi everyone, and welcome to this episode of Writers Infusion. I'm your host, Susan. I'm here with the usual crew, Ed, Julie, Jen, and Dave. Today we have our guest here with us, Han Lee, right here. Han is with us today. He has written, we have a literary novel excerpt called Bleeding in Babylon. But before we get started, I just want to ask Han how we got started in writing and what do you do, that sort of thing.
I only do this for fun, so I got started many years ago when I was back in high school, and it was just something I found interesting. And I, depending on how busy my life has been, work on it more or less intensely, just depending on what's going on at the time. I'm an engineer, so that takes up most of my time, and I have 2 kids, so that takes up the rest of my time. And so occasionally I get up at 4 in the morning and I work.
Wow.
Yeah. And so you must love writing. You've been doing it for a long time. Is it always fiction?
No, I write professionally also for my engineering work. And I used to write a small amount on a small blog I had with Open Salon, but then that went defunct and I just never picked it up again.
Oh, it's so easy to have that happen.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's very hard to keep up with trying to sort of write a new post every week and juggle everything.
It certainly is. Well, we're glad you could join us today.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, so this is the very beginning of your book. Is the whole thing written?
Yes.
Oh, well, good.
Fantastic.
All right, so a summary, I'll read your summary.
Okay.
So it's called Bleeding in Babylon, and it's the story of a man searching one of the most dangerous places in the world, Iraq, 6 months after the start of the war, for the son of the friend he betrayed. Okay.
The war started today. Rain falls as the news repeats on my office radio. I adjust my collar, run my finger between it and my neck to relieve the chafing, cross myself and pray for those first victims along the banks of the Tigris. Artie, in the year since you died, through my grievous fault, Mary Beth has come to me for solace, and with her I find comfort as well. For weeks she has been watching the run-up to this day, and I wait for her to call me about Daniel's National Guard unit. If your son is deployed, would my promise to watch over him be broken? He is too young to be sent halfway around the world, and I can't follow him to a war zone. From the windowsill, I pick up that picture of the 3 of us, holding baseball gloves after a game of catch when Daniel was in grade school. Just the boys, said Mary Beth, as she pressed the shutter on her camera. I want to put that picture away, just store it in a box with other relics, but not yet. Even after all this time, your last message remains on my answering machine. Har, 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 you're laughing just like the old days. See you tonight for a beer. By now the congregation must be gathering for a sparsely attended evening mass, and afterward the sacrament of reconciliation. How warm and safe they imagine themselves during the season of Lent, as they huddle in the pews and gossip with their neighbors. I wrap the amice about my shoulders, now the alb. I pull it over my head, push my arms through the sleeves, and thank our Lord for the strength he provides. The thought of kneeling before the altar, silent but for the rattle of cheap Valium beneath my vestments, makes me shudder. I take the vial from my pocket, untangle my rosary, and hide the pills in my desk. I knot the cincher around my waist. It is too loose and I retie it. Over my shoulders I drape the stole, its fringes swishing. I pin the maniple to my sleeve, then finally put on the chasuble. Pacing around that uneven floorboard, never repaired in all my years here, I am struck by a vision of the darkened church. Empty pews haunt me as I stare at my wall calendar, lines slashing across the weeks and months since the accident. For me, it has been a year of tossing and turning in bed, of sleeping pills, of waking before dawn, unable to exercise my culpability. The telephone rings and makes me jump. I pick it up. From the sound of her breathing, I know it's Mary Beth. Then I ask about Daniel. Thomas, I hate the phone. Maybe he won't be deployed, I say, remembering that last night with Artie. Basketball and a television over the bar. In the din we heard talk of war. Daniel's in the National Guard, he said. They stay stateside, don't worry. For a moment, Mary Beth taps her receiver, the sound an insistent ticking. Thomas, can you come by and see Daniel? He should talk to someone. Is he still home with you? For the last year. It's only been him and me. My hand shakes from gripping the telephone. I can't replace Artie. You can still talk to Daniel. It wouldn't be father to son. No, but at least it would be man to man. Man to man. When did Daniel grow up? When did God become blackness and void? Only when my alarm rings, reminding me of the Mass, do I set down the phone to lay my face in my hands. Thomas, Thomas. Dimly I hear Mary Beth's voice, then pick up the phone again. She thought we had lost the connection, but I tell her everything is fine and promise to come by and talk to Daniel. Don't mention that I asked you to check on him. Again, the radio announcer. Laser-guided bombs are pulverizing cities in our campaign of shock and awe. I look at the clock. He's a soldier. I'll treat him like one. He may be a soldier, but he's still only 19. After she hangs up, someone knocks on my door. I open it to see Benjamin, still our pastor, though slower for age, hunched like he was that day he first guided me to this office, his cane tapping one knee with each step through the rectory. Thomas, you have much in your mind. I can see it. Benjamin raises a finger to my forehead. This isn't an ordinary day. No, it isn't. Tonight you should speak of it. I'm not ready. I want to yield the service to Benjamin. He speaks clearly and with faith. He knows how to reassure people seeking divine guidance. What's wrong? This isn't a good time. Thomas, we all have our duties. Please do yours. Forgive me. I close the curtains to shut out the drizzle. You're a pup. It's time to go. During the homily, I asked for attention to talk of war and rumors of war. We cannot let this conflagration become a conflict between faiths. Does Islam not mean peace and submission to God? Was Christ not born Prince of Peace? A watery light filters through stained glass windows that portray his life in agony. The face of Christ shines like amber. The storm behind Calvary turns in a ruby sky. One man arrives late. He takes off his coat, runs fingers through wet hair plastered to his temples, and finds a seat and back. In the first pew, a woman clasps her hands so tightly that her knuckles are white. She has the bright flush of rouge on her cheeks. Her husband nibbles a cracker, hides it in his palm, and brushes the crumbs from his lips. Two daughters squirm next to them. Such innocence, thumping their shoes against the kneeler. We cannot question the ultimate mystery of God's design. If it is his wish, then we must follow, although our free will allows us to stray. Yet again and again, I return to that last night with Artie. While outside, I hear only the murmur of chill winter rain. Bread, the staff of life. I visit the bakery where bells jingle on the door as I open it. Standing behind the counter, the owner wipes her forehead with the heel of one hand. You again. It's still early and already she seems spent. We talk about the news over our usual cup of coffee. For days, satellite feeds and embedded reporters have dominated the airwaves, yet we can't get enough. When I ask for another donation to help my shelter down the street, she says, sorry, no cash to spare. Then goes to the back room and returns with some loaves in a paper bag. They're too stale to sell, but it's all I have. She would like to give more, yet the lines around her mouth, deep grooves worn by labor, say I can't. After I thank her and buy a dozen muffins for the shelter, she packs 2 extra for me. I walk past the diner that must have been busy long ago, when the morning crowd stopped for coffee and donuts. Now its booths are empty, its windows opaque with grease and dirt. Pitted, discolored, interrupted here and there by broken concrete, the sidewalks seem forlorn, and this neighborhood of graffiti-covered buildings feels lost. Stinking as always and wearing grimy camouflage fatigues, Hector sleeps in the entry of the shelter. I hold my breath and bend over to wrap him on the shoulder. You're blocking the door. He curls against the steps. Go away. I'm tired. And I'm tired of finding you here. Where were you? Hector huddles in his jacket and sneezes. His nose drips. He wipes it on his sleeve and complains of the snot that won't stop. You want to sleep inside? Come in when we're open. Piss off. You piss off. I nudge him with my foot, but he doesn't move. After watching him for a long time, I help him stand, then unlock the door. All right, come in. You know what to do. He mutters with a rasp of gravel in his voice and tramps behind me through the vestibule, where a wan glow emanates from the windows and tiny brown moths flutter in shafts of light. In the common area, I ease him onto a folding chair and grasp his face. His cheeks feel cold and greasy. The stubble is at least a week old. Years of sun exposure have thickened his skin, now mottled with lesions. Could he have ever been 19? Yet some remnant must lie in this husk of a hobbled old man. Did Hector dream of sailing across the ocean, flying to the moon, marrying the girl next door? When did his life veer to the streets? I look into his eyes but find nothing, except possibly that 1,000-yard stare. His social worker would remind me to ask the questions. What's your name? Go away. Tell me your name. I shake. What's your name? Hector. It's Hector, okay?
Good. I want to say right off that I think your writing's really, really good.
Oh, thank you.
I do. I think it's really good. And there are just, like, if I stay away from the story for a second and just look at some of the phrasing, I just think it's wonderful. I mean, I highlighted a bunch of things here that I thought just gave really nice description. I knew I had a picture of who he was at the beginning, and just a lot of little things that I noted here. So I guess I'll start. So I like the beginning about how there's guilt right away, about how, that you've got a whole story going on here that I want to read more about. When you moved into the place where he started to go into the bakery, and then he found that man outside, first of all, now is he a priest or he has a collar?
He's running the shelter. Is he a clergyman at that point?
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
He is.
I didn't know they could say piss off.
Oh,
When
no one's looking.
They used to be human before the
Yes.
But
they could say piss off, God bless you.
Yes.
God bless you.
I like the scene at the bakery, but I almost didn't know the point of it. Like, I didn't know what are we getting out of him going there, and then he sees the man outside, and I don't see any connection to that between what you started off with in the first 3.5 pages and then going to that.
I see.
I hope we're getting to Artie at some point, because you say I remember that with Artie.
Right.
So for me, and everyone has their own reasons for being drawn into the story. One, right away, is just the writing's great. Two, because I see something going on between him and Mary Beth, and I had a question about that. And of course, this whole thing with Artie. So that all draws me in. When he goes to the bakery and there's no real connection to it, and then there's that guy lying outside and there's no connection to it, I'm like, where's the story? Where's it going? Because I want to talk about this. So that's my initial, and I have a couple of other things, but I'll pass it on. So
I was curious. You're talking about the bakery, reminded me, there are several places where I'm not sure when and where things are taking place. Like, there's the very first scene where I have no idea where this is. I mean, it takes a long time for me to figure out that this is, backstage at the church before a mass. And maybe I'm just slow. And I'm wondering if that's deliberate, you want us to kind of figure out slowly, oh, this guy's a priest. Or if that's something that you could help us out with more up front. And then when the bakery scene comes around, I'm not sure, I mean, obviously it's a bakery because we say it in the first line, but I'm not sure when this is in relation to what we've just heard. I mean, the last thing that happened is he is conducting the mass on the night that war broke out. So I'm not sure when the bakery scene happens. Is it the next day? And that would be helpful. Now, the other thing, I agree with Sue, your writing is terrific. One thing that I noticed is you put a lot into paragraphs, and I think it would really help if you broke things up, because you have a lot of things that are really poignant, but they're kind of crowded on top of each other. So it's like the reader needs something that's like, okay, end of that thought, this poignant thing. then end of that thought, next poignant. So I've marked a lot of places with paragraph marks to think about, spacing things out a little more, to kind of spring that stuff. Yeah.
Go ahead.
If I could bring up the bakery also to dovetail, I do see that the sentence leading forward, and then you have 3 asterisks, mentions I go to that last night with Artie, so we're going back a bit in time to when they were in the service.
Yeah.
I'm just curious where we are, if it's in a town, in the countryside, or what the very country is actually, and where he is. We're going to get to Artie at some point. I need to be patient. I know that.
And I love that sentence because you just had that up.
Yes.
The chill, what is it? The murmur of chill winter rain.
Oh, yes.
It's things like that that just stand out.
Yes.
They're so good.
Well, thank you.
I give check pluses when I like good language or good words, good vocabulary, and I loved the description of the photograph playing catch. It's such a regular, mundane happening, and then it's so beautiful and meaningful because it's the boys together. I am at fault for this myself, but I think that you could start more. Oh my gosh, what's the word? You could, I can't speak English. Draw in the reader, edit that out. Yeah. You could draw in the reader more powerfully by starting with, on page 2, I say, start here, start with this. The telephone rings and makes me jump. Now it's right there, making you jump out of reverie. I totally get that. But you may want to start with the telephone, or as I said here, don't start with the war started today. Don't blatantly state it, allude to it. Have a news report giving that information. Have dialogue or a phone conversation giving the information about the war starting, and then you can go back to Artie. You could go back to Mary Beth wanting you to speak to Daniel. You could go directly to it. Maybe at that point she wants you to speak to Daniel, but it would be more eye-catching. It would really lure the reader in to start with the POW. There's a movie, DOA, Dead on Arrival, and they start with the dead man. You know he's dead. And then they go back, and you forget he's living a life. It's wonderful. Oh my God, he's going to die. I saw that already. So they get you, draw you in, and then lay down the story.
Now, at the very beginning of the story, it almost sounds to me like he's having some kind of a relationship with Mary Beth. And I don't know if he is or not, but I read that several times because I was trying to figure it out.
Each other.
I wasn't sure how far it went, but then I'm bringing that up only because at the second page, he's asking about, is he still home with you, her son? So, and she says for the last year it's only been him and me. So. I'm wondering, unless that's just a temporary thing, why doesn't he know that if they're close? So maybe I'm just missing something.
Actually, that's a good point. I never thought about that. He should know that.
Right.
I hadn't. That's
if they're close, he would know.
Oh, but I assumed he was doing military training, or he was in an apartment of some sort. But she's saying it's just the two. We need each other because we lost
But
Artie.
he should know then.
Right.
You're
right. I hadn't thought that part through.
Oh, okay.
That's a good point.
She makes.
That's why we're here.
Okay, thank you.
That's why we try.
So I would respectfully disagree with Julie. I like the beginning. The only thing is that, you never start with weather. It's just so never start with weather. I would definitely take like the first few lines out. It doesn't, but I love that you have tension right on the first page. Even just with, in the years since you died through my grievous fault. Okay. Perfect. Like it's in the first paragraph. Like my curiosity is piqued, and then you pepper it in, and you keep going, and you're just planting these little seeds that make me say, "Okay, I need to know what happened. How was he involved? How did Artie die?" So I want to compliment you on just peppering, planting a seed, planting a seed, planting a seed, or I should say breadcrumbs that I am going to continue to follow. So I would definitely keep reading. And I think it's really hard to do that, to create intrigue like that. So I want to commend you for that, and keep doing that. I would agree with what.
Come on, agree with me on something, Jen.
What Sue and it might have been what Ed was saying. So the bakery scene, the scene with Hector. I think it slows things down a little bit. Like in the beginning, you're doing so well. You're peppering that intrigue. You have this whole paragraph with him getting dressed. It just slows down the action, but so now I'm going to contradict myself and disagree with myself, right? So you have him.
So you agree with me in a way.
And so the the play-by-play with him getting dressed is, but I like the symbolism that he's looking in and people are waiting for the sacrament of reconciliation, because I think that this is what it's about for him, right? So he's looking for forgiveness because something happened. So I love that.
It takes a while to get to that point. That's the whole point of the novel.
But that's,
you're right.
No, but that's fine. The symbolism's there, and I caught that. I don't think you need the play-by-play after getting dressed, except, and I don't know that a lot of people know this, but the last thing he puts on is the chasuble. And so I just did a little research on what priests wear, and I just did the chasuble, if I'm pronouncing it right. And I took this off the internet, so it must be true.
It's chasuble.
Chasuble is representative of the pastoral care for his flock, like a shepherd. And it sounds to me like Thomas is going to become Daniel's shepherd, right? So I like the symbolism of that. And then, you go on about, and again, just planting the seeds. So those were my, the scene with Benjamin, again, I think it slowed things down. I didn't quite get what Benjamin, so again, it just slowed the action down a little bit. But, overall, I agree the writing was fantastic. And
I think you could even keep the bakery and you could keep the other scenes, but I think they have to tie into what's going on at the beginning.
Is that a complete chapter? Does it end there?
What?
With the bakery scene? I'm sorry.
It's sort of, I imagine it's like an establishing shot where you
there's
get
more coming.
Picture. Yes.
Okay, so
actually,
go ahead.
Go ahead. The bakery never appears. It's after that. It's just, this is the start of his morning on that particular day.
Yeah, that's fine.
And
I have no
he
problem with that.
buys some muffins, and the muffins appear a little bit later. So it's more that's how he gets muffins.
Yeah, that's okay. This isn't a short story. Everything doesn't have to be immediately explainable.
Right.
It has to be there, and then you can use it as background information. Let me say, everybody else has said it, so I'll just, I love rainy days, and this is perfect. Are you saying that I shouldn't use, it was a dark and stormy night?
No, that's very
Okay, I'm going to take that out.
I was going to use that too.
That's a unique
It works for
lens.
me. I like the idea of rain, and because the whole story is bleak, depressing. It's an atmospheric situation that really, for me, popped it. I love rainy days, by the way. I'm not that kind of person. So this blended right in. My problem with the first couple of paragraphs is I didn't know who belonged to whom.
Who belonged to, in what way?
Well, you have a whole bunch of people. Artie, who's Artie. I didn't even know he was a priest until the second paragraph. He pulls his collar away. I do that all the time.
Well, he crossed himself and played.
No, it's Rodney Dangerfield. I don't get it.
That's it.
I don't get no respect.
But
I like that phrasing, by the way. I gave you a check there. Also.
Oh, thank you.
With the fingers on the collar, very well written.
I totally like the story. I like the tone. I like the bleakness, the need for redemption. Somebody has to crawl out of this hole.
Yeah.
And I'm looking for that. Right now, there's a lot of milling. I've got a whole lot of notes here, and you can read those later.
Okay.
But there's a whole lot of milling around, looking for a way to take the first step out of this guilt, this misery. Everything that's going on here is very well drawn out. If you can clarify, because I'm the moron you're writing for.
Yeah.
I need to be held. I need my hand held as I cross the street. And I wrote that out step by step. Who is this person? The most difficult thing in this story is, well, you've got two, because you presented a difficulty here. I don't know who these people are related to.
Yeah.
But the when of the story, you've really got to nail that down, or the people are going to heave it.
When, in what sense?
In time. I am now here.
Yeah.
And then this chapter.
Oh, I see.
Is it related to this chapter, or is it sometime further? You have to. And that may be your most difficult task, because there's an awful lot that happened in the past, it seems. And that's got to come out eventually, somehow. So that's, and I wrote here and underlined it, I would love to read the revision of this story in its entirety. I think it's very well written. The tone is perfect for the situation. The people are like, I can see them like in the seventh gates of hell, just crawling through and trying to make it through the day. And the woman is miserable, and Addie's dead, and the brother needs, oh, God. So, yeah, I can see a real value to this kind of story. I like it. I think it's terrific.
Can I commend you on one other thing too? Is that
Me?
well, I commend you just because you're a mentor and fantastic writer, and I idolize you.
Well, there you go.
But for Han, the other thing that you do well, which I think a lot of writers can do, is they can do a big backstory dump in the beginning, because to Dave's point, a lot of stuff has happened prior to the story, and you're starting in the right spot. But even then, and again, we talk about the peppering of the intrigue, you just pepper just enough of the backstory. I remember the last time I saw him at the bar. He said this, I said that, and then you move on. There's not this big info dump of backstory. It's just enough.
Nice.
It's in the right spots.
Can I ask for
and I think that's fantastic.
A little bit more pepper. You say you died through my grievous fault, and you're welcome to leave it there. Keep us in mystery. But could you maybe say, I wrote you a note, why did or didn't I blank? Or why didn't I go back for you? Or why didn't I stop the blank? So allude to something. Don't give it all away, but ask a question or two, because grievous fault is so vague. Maybe just.
I like it.
It's a hint.
It's
See,
a
I like it as a hint.
I liked it. I think it's going to make me keep reading. I want to know what happened, and if I know that they drove home and there was a car accident.
No, I'm not saying.
Oh, you guessed it. Well, very close.
Oh, don't say.
Oh, okay, I won't say.
But I don't want to know.
Okay,
That was a total guess.
Yes.
It was a total guess.
Okay, so you're very intuitive.
Well, I know, but I know that it had to do with the bar. It was their last night together. I know that he had something to do with his death. But that's okay, that I guessed it.
Yes.
I'm going to keep reading because I want to know the circumstances. So whether it was a car accident or not, something, he made some fatal flaw that caused his friend's death and left his son an orphan and his wife a widow, and that's
an available widow.
I totally agree with Dave. I love the somber tone throughout. You really, maintain that, and
you understand misery.
Yeah.
You really do.
We mean that the nicest way.
Yes.
I mean, I hope you're joyful with your children.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, I enjoyed it.
Yes.
I love to read, when you comb it through, I'd love to see the entire thing.
Okay.
I would too.
Yeah, bring it on.
I would too. I felt like whatever I had to say is, when I said that about the other scenes, I'd like to see something about those scenes that falls back within where you were starting. He's at the bakery and some tiny thing, and the same with the guy on the ground there. But I think your writing is really, really wonderful. I do.
Thank you.
It's terrific.
Yeah, one of the difficulties of writing a longer work is that, you put in the salt and pepper and you don't see the final result until you put it in the oven.
Yeah. True.
Yeah.
How long have you been working on this? Or how long did you?
Probably for about 8 years or so.
Wow.
I started.
Feel better.
I started about a year after the war itself started, and I only have a little bit of time any given day, so it just kind of adds up over that time.
I have to tell you right now that if you can find any more time to concentrate on your writing, I think you need to, because it's that good.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Who needs sleep? It's overrated.
Yeah, exactly.
It's totally overrated.
Yeah, so wake up at 3 a.m. instead of 4 a.m.
Okay.
That's right. That's right. What are your next steps with this? You said you wrote the whole thing.
Right.
Has anyone else read it?
Not in its entirety, which is something that, I don't want to inflict on my friends. Like, I don't want to say, here, read all this.
Yeah.
Hard to find an audience.
Yeah, exactly.
And your friends aren't going to tear you apart.
Yeah, exactly.
They're going to love it.
Well, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this.
Have you thought of going to a summer writers program?
No, I haven't.
Well, you should.
Yeah.
You would be perfect for it. I can't do an advertisement for them.
I don't know.
I don't know. Well,
why not?
I'll do
Sure,
it.
you can.
These places exist.
Yeah, I've been going to Colgate summer writers programs for several years now, and they'll do an entire novel.
Yeah.
It's a novels intensive, and what you do is you get your entire novel read by essentially us.
Yeah.
And you'll get, rather than 5 pages, you get the entire novel.
Yeah.
It's not as detailed as this. We really home in on the 5 pages.
Sure.
How many pages is it?
It's about 270.
Yeah, that'd be perfect. They'll be able to do that, and they'll do a good job.
Yeah.
Plus, you have an instructor there, a professional author, who would be able to nail down any kind of weaknesses.
And there are a few people that would read it, not just one, right?
Well, 5.
Yeah, when he says us, he doesn't mean us. He means other writers like yourself.
Right.
Right, so
We're writers.
That's what I mean, other right, I just didn't mean it was going, it wasn't, it's not gonna be Ed, Julie, Sue, Jen, and Dave.
Yeah.
It might be Dave, because he'll be there.
Right.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, that's why I wanted the feedback, because I thought, well, I don't know what a reader might think upon seeing things, because one of my intents was to write this from the viewpoint of the main character, but from within his head, in the sense that, when you're walking around, you don't say, oh, there's my friend Jim Thomas, who I used to go to college with. You just say, there's my friend Jim.
Right.
And so, and yet I have to provide information, so there's
So the
a
reader
kind
has
of
to
balance.
figure some things out.
I'm glad you said that, Han, because I asked, is the whole story in the protagonist's head, or do we get to hear dialogue with Mary Beth, with Daniel?
Oh, yes.
Already fantastic.
Right, there's dialogue too.
Beautiful.
And yes,
Good.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I would
that's
actually love to
where
read
the
it.
art comes in.
I would.
Yeah, that's where the art comes in, where you can give information without seeming as though you're giving information.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the art, and that takes a long time to develop.
Yeah.
You trust the reader.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not me, I need to be held.
Yes.
I need hugs.
Yes.
I want to-
Dave, that is so you. When I look at you, I think hug.
Hugs.
Warm and
You think
hug. Oh, my, crossing my fingers, kids. Wow.
Well, that's what I hope to do sort of with the following pages, because you asked, where is this? Where are we in time? And in the next page, you find out where you are.
Oh, thank you. Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
so
Around
that
the corner.
information's there.
Just around the corner.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
The trouble is trying to put 10 pounds of stuff in a 5-pound
absolutely.
bag. like you say.
Yes,
we
that's
know.
a good
That's
analogy.
It's
That's
not
a
mi-
really
it's
good
not-
analogy.
It's not mine.
I like it.
Other
do you-
people use it.
Do you have any other questions for us?
Well, I guess one of my questions is, okay, where do you think this is going?
Your
Where do
career
I-
or the story?
No, the story.
Where do I think it's going?
Yeah.
Well, so I told you, I gave you my guess
Yeah.
on
Yes.
the accident.
Yeah.
I think that he is going to end up being Daniel's shepherd, and I think that Daniel will probably get deployed, and that Thomas is going to somehow end up in Iraq. And
Nobody
trying-
says he can't follow him to wars.
But
and
he
I asked
says
him
that, well,
why.
the first page he says that, but
I
he's
can't
go,
follow
something's
him
gonna
to
have to
wars.
happen,
Yes.
that's gonna force his hand,
Drag him
right?
back,
So the inciting
yes.
incident, in order to get him, to get him there, and but it's okay if that's what actually happens.
That's what actually happens.
But that's
You're-
okay.
She's good.
Yeah, I'm impressed.
But that's
You're
okay,
right.
because it's okay that I figured that out, because
Yeah.
that's what I want to happen.
Yes.
He's saying, I can't go, and that's the whole thing, the character has to change, what is gonna force his hand to make him go? And I'd love to see that scene,
Yeah.
that where he makes that decision, I have to go to the Middle East.
Well, we know he's
I
got
gotta
the
save
guilt
him.
Yeah.
right from the start.
Has to atone.
It's interesting, the different readers have, she's very creative and she's looking for answers. I, on the other hand, am like a horse. I don't know where I'm going. You're gonna tell me where to go, and I'll go there and I'll enjoy the trip. And that's the way I read. I don't try to anticipate anything, because I'm always wrong.
Yeah.
But I just don't anticipate. If I'm enjoying the ride, I don't care where you take me. And that's what I found here.
Okay.
I enjoyed the ride. And you want to take me to Iraq? Okay.
Yeah.
Step at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, well, we have the summary too, so we
Yeah.
kind of assume that's where it's going to end up.
Right, but someone reading this without the summary doesn't know.
Oh, yes.
They would
Yeah,
know.
I guess that's a good
No.
point, like I have the summary,
Yeah.
so
Right,
that
they
could
wouldn't
have
know.
given me some.
That'll be
things.
on the back of the.
So
It
you're a
will,
horse.
it will be on the back,
Yeah.
on the
So
back
you're
page
the-
anyway.
So
so
you're a
much to
horse
say.
too then?
I was just gonna thank you for not calling me a horse. A horse is a beautiful, beautiful
Yes, they
animal,
are.
so it's okay.
But they're stupid.
Yes.
Now, what about relationship at all? Do we get into relationships between him and Mary Beth, or relationship with him and Artie?
Yes,
Don't give away
No,
too much.
no, I won't. I
'cause
won't.
I kind of want to read this.
because I do sprinkle in the background between Thomas and Artie, because they are friends from way back. And there's a lot that builds up there. And between Thomas and Mary Beth, there's a different kind of relationship. And there's, I hope, some kind of tension, and I hope it doesn't end up the way you expect it ends up.
Okay.
Okay. And did you have to do any research for this book? Because if he does go over to Iraq, then
Yeah.
did you have to do research at all?
Yeah. I didn't go there myself, but I guess one of my ideas is that perhaps I don't have to be completely accurate, because it's not a documentary.
No, true.
But it wants to be, I want it to be believable. So I read something like a shelf full of books
Oh.
about it.
Oof.
And, sometimes I get maybe one piece of information out of a book that I find useful. But,
That's great.
but then I absorb all this.
Yeah, like cinema
Background.
verite.
Yeah.
You want it to sound right.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. And
Yes,
some,
you guys.
that's
yeah.
good.
And sometimes
I believe in fiction.
Yeah.
Yes. Historical fiction.
Doesn't do any
It's called
research.
Doesn't have to be,
You did wonderful
perfectly
research on
accurate.
those teapots.
I mean, you're not writing, Dan Brown
Right.
type stories,
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
I do that too, though. It might be one sentence out of a whole book, but
Yep.
then it's in your head.
Yeah.
It's kind of there while you're writing it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's good, even if it doesn't actually appear in the book.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Or it gives me that sort of background feel for it.
That's right, and you're in the right mood or the right place. I know what you mean.
Yeah, one of the things that I found really useful was I looked at books of photographs by soldiers of Iraq and just kind of say, this is what it looks like, and from that, this is what it feels like. And what I found really useful was this book by an artist, because actually you could freely go to Iraq if you wanted to. You didn't have to be in the military. And this artist went there and he painted what he saw. And so not only did the paintings represent something that he saw, it also represented his feelings. So that gave me a different dimension of it.
Wow.
That's really neat.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Great stuff.
I think so. Well,
And he's a
thanks for
physicist.
coming
You're
today.
welcome.
I know,
Yes,
and a
thank you.
physicist.
Wow.
Do you want to say anything about your work?
Well, I do a lot of
I
different
was
things.
impressed.
I mean, among other things, I actually have a small startup company and I design laboratory instruments.
Wow.
Yeah, and this is what I do on the side, and it's like a
It's a
juggling
nice
act.
balance, yes.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of tech people here too, so you know what it's like.
That's good. It's a combination of art and science.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
You're
Thanks
welcome.
for coming.
You're welcome.
It was really nice to meet you.
Thank you.
And read your work because it's so good.
Thank
I
you.
think that anything I had was just technical,
Okay.
Yeah.
easy stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you all for joining us for this episode of Writers Infusion, and we will see you next time. Keep writing.